You know, the positive lessons that youngsters learn on the fields of sport have been well documented. In youth leagues nationwide, kids are learning all about sportsmanship, perspective, and discipline, the very attributes that many of their parents now seem to be lacking when they watch them play. What's worse is that many of those soccer moms and Little League dads who have long been loudmouths at children's games have now added a new and violent dimension to their ways. In this Real Sports Illustrated report, our Bernie Goldberg looks at the dirty sports secret of America's suburbs.
He broke my nose, broke it right across the bridge. The septum was deviated 40%, and he fractured my left orbital right underneath the eye.
Steve Farinacci was mugged, but not in some dark alley by some stranger late at night. Farinacci is a soccer referee in Port St. Lucie, Florida, who was attacked in broad daylight by a coach.
5 minutes into the second half, I call foul against the Port St. Lucie team. The coach came up off the bench, slammed his clipboard down, and proceeded to start yelling at me.
But that was just the beginning. Farinacci says the coach kept up the tirade and even started cursing at him. Fed up with the verbal abuse, especially in the presence of kids, Farinacci called off the game and started walking off the field.
I'm approaching the clubhouse when he says, "You said you couldn't talk to me out on the field. Will you talk to me now?" And I'm right here. And I turn, and you can see I turn, I said, "Sure." He's approaching me rapidly. When he does that, he bumps into me. I mean, with the force. I mean, he's a big guy. Backs me up into the door like this, and I knew I was in trouble. You can see he proceeds just to slam down on my head, and I just stumble into the clubhouse.
And this camera right here?
Yes, caught it.
A surveillance camera right outside the clubhouse caught the whole thing. The coach, Maurice Lesmes, confronts Farinacci and headbutts him. Lesmes, who refused to do an interview with Real Sports, pled no contest to battery, was sentenced to 7 days in jail, and given 1-year probation.
This is part of what the experts tell us is a growing trend.
Yes, it is definitely growing. The insults have gotten more personal and more violent in nature.
The fact is, in parks all across America, the field of dreams has become a field of screams. Fights, if not commonplace, well, they're certainly no longer unusual. And what makes it really crazy is that for the most part, it's not the kids who are starting the mayhem. The real troublemakers, the ones who can't seem to control themselves, are the coaches and the parents, the ones we like to call the grown-ups.
Last October, a coach in Nebraska punches a 16-year-old referee during a flag football game involving 6- and 7-year-olds. A month later, a post-game handshake in Weston, Florida, turns into a brawl between parents, coaches, and teenage football players.
The police are on the way. Get off the field.
This past summer in Hollywood, Florida, a coach turns himself in after being charged with assault for allegedly breaking an umpire's jaw at a teen baseball game. And then in July, outside Boston, what begins as a shoving match between two fathers after a kid's hockey practice ends with one beaten to death, the other charged with manslaughter and facing 20 years in prison.
How do you describe what's going on out there?
Insanity, craziness, loss of perspective of parents across this country with their children in sports.
20 years ago, Fred Eng started the National Alliance for Youth Sports, an organization that monitors children's athletics. The game is for kids, he says, not for a bunch of obnoxious adults.
Obviously, most parents, the overwhelming majority, are wonderful people. Let me preface that. But the ugly people are growing and growing. That's why this has to stop.
But why has it gotten so nasty? What makes some parents so angry over a game that, in the big scheme of things, is so meaningless?
3 different things: fear, ego, and greed. As a parent, I have a tremendous fear today, more than ever, that my child would not be number 1.
Ego?
Ego, it's not going to happen the second time around. I didn't make my Little League team, didn't make the high school team, didn't make the I could have been a major league player.
They're living through their kids?
Absolutely. And you know the ugly part of the third thing?
Greed?
Greed, you got it. My child's going to make some of that big money, scholarship money, going to get into the major leagues, million dollar contracts, and that's where it crosses over the line. See, the parents are the ones that put up the scoreboards, the standings, the championships, the all-star games. Kids, you ask kids if they want that? Nah. What kids want is fun.
Eng cites a Michigan State University survey that says of the 20 million kids who participate in youth sports in America, 70% of them quit before they turn 13.
What was the number one reason that they gave for dropping out?
Boys and girls alike, the number one reason it ceased to be fun.
Sports ceased to be fun.
What are they telling us?
What do you think they're telling us?
They're telling us to back off. Let us have fun. Give it back to us. Behave.
You're making it sound like kids are more grown up than the grown-ups.
Well,
Which brings us to Miami just before Labor Day of this year. Two coaches fight it out over an umpire's call at a T-ball game for 4- and 5-year-olds. Peter Hernandez is a parent of one of the T-ball players, as well as one of the coaches involved.
I took a swing, he hit me back, and that's where everyone else went out. And as other parents are trying to stop other people, another fight broke out, and it just got into a really big brawl.
A very big brawl? You could say that. Take a look. Parents in the stands see the coaches fighting, so they storm onto the field and begin battling each other as their kids watch.
They get too much into the game, and they want to win, and they want to win.
Giancarlo Peluso is the 16-year-old umpire who made the call that touched off the fight.
The fight was like between 20 minutes. The coaches started it, and then it ended up girls, and then like mothers fighting each other and screaming names at each other and running at each other, everything.
The mothers are hitting each other?
The fathers, brothers, sisters, everyone was fighting.
No grandmothers?
No grandma.
Both of the coaches have been suspended from the league. As for Hernandez, who says he was just defending himself, does he regret getting involved in the scuffle that touched off the brawl?
I've had time to think about it, and I still think I would have reacted the same way. It got a little out of hand. It got way out of hand. We solved it real quick. We did what we did. We got split up. It was over. That's the way it should have stayed. But other people got involved. Other things happened, and it really got, a little messy.
I hereby pledge to provide positive support.
These parents in Jupiter, Florida are taking the pledge to behave themselves at their children's games. It's part of the National Alliance for Youth Sports program that requires parents to attend a 1-hour class on sports civility.
If your kid and you are not having fun, then you're really wasting some very precious time.
If parents think this is silly and don't show up, their kids cannot play in any of the town's leagues. Simple as that.
What do you think of this program?
I think it's a great idea. We've seen people last year where we've had to escort referees out because they've been threatened by other players or other parents, so it's a great thing to have.
Just about everyone we spoke to felt the same way. Make the parents promise to behave, and they will. Maybe because if they don't, their own kids will suffer. But listen to the horror stories about the way things used to be.
Coaches grabbing their kids if they missed the ball, choking them, and they're 5- and 6-year-olds. They're not professionals.
He was ranting and raving, hollering and screaming, saying cuss words. At the kid, at the coach, at everybody. I mean, he was just going completely berserk.
One day we started looking out there at the kids, and the kids seemed so uptight, so unhappy.
The next morning, we went to Jupiter Community Park for a first-hand look at how the program is working. Pee-wee football for 8 to 10-year-olds, and for the most part, the parents on the Jupiter side of the field, while boisterous, were under control. But on the other side of the field,
then you need to stay with me and act like you want to play this game. No, you're not. And you're not. You're moping around, going, how come I'm not getting to play?
This is the visiting team from another town up the Florida coast. On this side of the field, the atmosphere is a little more, well, let's call it intense.
Oh, I guess they got that one too, huh? Yeah, they'll get them all, I'm sure. Hey! What is that? Come on, guys! You're killing me! Ray Jones can see this crap!
He's Robert Shepard, the in-your-face visiting team coach and parent of one of the football players, who seems to adhere to that old saying that dancing is a contact sport. Football, even pee-wee football, is more like nuclear war.
The intensity seemed at an awfully high level.
Do they enjoy that, or do they? If they don't enjoy it, is it good for them?
They love it.
Give it from me. We love
It's
it.
not badminton, it's football. You go out there not intense, you're going to get hurt.
We teach them discipline, we teach them teams, we teach them as there is no I in team, you know, the organization. It all rolls into their later as they grow up in life to realize this is the way things are built.
And the moment between you and the referee?
I was wrong. I got a little upset because I seen a few things at the referees. I realized they can't catch it all, but Ray Charles could have caught a couple of those plays.
These kids are trying to win a game and y'all ain't helping them none.
They don't need you to holler either, all right? Now that's enough.
How about some fair?
Hey, come on, guys. How about fair officiating here?
And to those who say it's too intense, there's too much emphasis on winning, and if they don't win, you know, what, they're losers and that type of thing. What do you say?
No, when they don't win, you've also got to be able to build them up and get their confidence back up that they lost, but that doesn't mean that they're not worth what practicing. Everybody is going to incur some disappointment in any game. As far as the toughness and how rough they are, if they don't want their kids to be tough and rough and play the game, they need to put them in gymnastics or ballet dancing.
We've lost our emotional maturity with children in sports.
What does that mean?
We don't know the moment to step back.
This month, Fred Eng's group is launching a nationwide campaign to require parents all over the country to take the pledge. It's the first step, he says, to stopping what he calls parent rage.
We want this program because we've seen enough. We've had it up to here. We don't want these dysfunctional people destroying what's going on. We don't want all of this behavior going on. We've had it.
Bernie, sad as it is, I guess we shouldn't be surprised at anything we saw in there because it's part of just a lessening of civility across the board in society.
Right. I mean, we have road rage in America. We have airport rage. Sooner or later, we're going to have somebody's going to say there's cell phone rage when somebody's talking in the restaurant and gets hit over the head with his entree. So with all this kind of rage, it's almost, Bryant, a logical, perverse, but logical extension that we would have this parent rage
and this really
youth
isn't
sports.
about kids.
No, I would argue that this isn't about kids at all. This is about grown-ups who, if we could use the cliche, ought to just get a life. The coaches sometimes think that they're coaching in the Rose Bowl or at the Super Bowl. They see it on television. They see big-time coaches in the face of big players, so they do it with little kids. The kids are just out there. The kids are out there trying to have fun, as a matter of fact. The coaches are out there fulfilling some psychological need that they have.
And normally, these coaches, how closely are they screened?
Well, I mean, they're regular people, you know. I mean, they have regular jobs, 5 days a week. They act.
So it's basically whoever they can recruit to spend the time.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody shows an interest and they want to be a coach, you could probably be a coach.
Yeah. Final sad note, you were telling me about the insurance part of this? It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Insurance companies, it sounds strange, but it's true. Insurance companies are offering insurance specifically for officials of these sporting events because there have been so many assaults. And the number, by the way, is going up.
That's sad. Pathetic.